I suppose we should probably start with the OGs first. We started with RE1 original, and even though it hasn't aged very well, I kind of feel like when I played it, there was somehow this very enjoyable atmosphere to it, and there's a lot of charm. And even though it's mainly just characters interacting with each other extremely awkwardly due to really bad voice acting back then.
What is this?
Wow, what a mansion! Stop it! Don't open that door!
But Chris is...
What is it?
Maybe it's Chris.
It still maintains the charm even outside of that, so like it's pretty good. It's pretty dang good. And I will admit, after replaying it and knowing that it is really truly the start of the whole entire series, I'm tempted to put it in A rank right off the bat. Like, it is what it is. It's legendary. You can't even replace this kind of experience. It's one of a kind, even in the Resident Evil series. Not even RE2 does the kind of the charm and the silliness of Resident Evil, which brings us to the next game, Resident Evil 2. Now, I'm very dead set on Resident Evil 2 being an S rank game. This is one of my favorites. It's just everything that is Resident Evil 1 just becomes better in Resident Evil 2. Almost everything is better. It's insane how good it is. But then you have Resident Evil 3. Now, I am going to be the first to say that Resident Evil 3 is definitely what it is because of Nemesis. I'm just going to get that... I just want to get that off the table first. If Resident Evil 3 didn't have Nemesis, it would just be RE2 2. Resident Evil 3 Nemesis is truly just Nemesis stealing the show. But I don't think it's better than 2. You know, as much as I like the interactions between Carlos and Jill in RE3, I do feel like all of the interactions between the characters in Resident Evil 2 are they're just better. Carlos is a little too silly at times, but I do like them very much. They're almost equal for me, but I think 2 is just a tiny bit better. Resident Evil 3 is a little bit more action-y and a little bit more silly. But it does do the very important things that I talked about in my What is Resident Evil video, where it has a lot more mechanics. It's got the dodge, it's got the 180 turn, the crafting. It's got a lot of new things that do make the gameplay experience a lot more exciting. So it's very, very close behind RE2 for me. And then the next game is Survivor. Survivor comes out after 3. And after playing Survivor, I forgot how lackluster it can be. I think the novelty of Survivor really wears out after you play it a couple times. It's really not a whole lot to look at, and voice acting and its characters are bad to the point where you don't really get much joy out of it. It's just bad.
You look familiar, but... but I just can't remember. A murderer? Ark Thompson, huh? Though I can't remember anything, I know that this was no way for anyone to die. What?
So, I will say that Survivor, I think I don't like I don't like as much as I thought I did when I played it in April. I think that the playthrough in April made me rethink how I feel about Survivor, and I'm gonna put it in the D rank. I am gonna put it in the D rank. It's not a complete failure in my opinion because it does things that are very experimental, and it's the first Resident Evil game to be given to just like a random third-party team, and they just did what they could with what they were given, so it's not a total failure, but it's definitely barely passing. Which brings us to the next game, which is Code Veronica. I like Code Veronica a lot. I think Code Veronica is better than RE1. 100%. I think Code Veronica is extremely unique when it comes to like the original kind of tank control formula with the fixed cameras. I do think it's better than RE1. I don't know if I would put it on S tier though, because it's flawed in the way that you can softlock really easily, and having no way of telling the player that they're going to switch characters just makes you completely fuck up your inventory. And, you know, as cool of an idea as it is to play Claire and Chris in the same game, it's just not done very well. So, do I want to put it in S tier? I kind of do, because it's Code Veronica and I love it, but the fact that it is like the one Resident Evil game where that happens, I don't think there's any other Resident Evil game that I can think of that just randomly switches you to a character and you don't have any of their inventory for like a really major part of the game. In Code Veronica, it's huge. It's really important that you know you're going to switch to Chris. And you aren't made aware of that. So on a first playthrough, this game's brutal, but if you play it a couple more times and you are not getting angry at the fact that it switches randomly, it's a great game. And Steve gets too much hate. Steve is cool. I like Steve. He's cringy, he's funny, and that's why he's good, because he's unique. He's one of the only characters in the Resident Evil universe that really fits Steve. There's no other Steve in Resident Evil. Resident Evil Gaiden, the only Game Boy game we've gotten. I'm not gonna lie, Gaiden is really funny. Barry is hilarious. Leon looks like a melted candle. And for a Game Boy game, it's quite good. I'm tempted to put it at like the very bottom of C rank, just because when you play it as just a game, it's not very good. But if you play it and realize, wait a second, this is a Game Boy Color game, like, you gotta give it some props. Like, it's pretty cool. Resident Evil Dead Aim is actually better than I thought. I do think that it's really dumb, and the only memorable characters are the two main protagonists. I don't think the antagonists or like anybody is memorable, but yeah, it's better than I remembered it being. I don't know if it's because I was streaming it and I was having fun with you guys, but there was just something about it that I don't know. I just enjoyed myself. Where's Survivor 2 on this list? Gun Survivor 2 doesn't have box art. And I also didn't play it in April. So I'm just gonna put it with Survivor. I almost forgot about Gun Survivor 2. It's my bad. But yeah, Dead Aim's better than I remember, but it's also just it's okay. It's not that great. It's not that. But you know what is great? Zero. As much as I hate playing this game sometimes, I do think that Zero's good. I think Zero is just a straight-up B-tier Resident Evil game. It makes some risky choices, and it experiments with having two playable characters. It has a lot of really tedious bullshit in it, but it's a great-looking game. It's a great playing game. The only reason why I don't want to put Zero in A tier is because I truly do think that Resident Evil Zero has some of the most flawed gameplay in, like, the entire series. It's just nonsensical at times. So I am gonna put it in B rank. Resident Evil Remake, S, better than the rest. Absolute banger. One of the greatest remakes of any game ever. It's good. And it deserves that top spot for me, personally. That's my favorite Resident Evil game. It's faithful to the original. It adds stuff to the original. It adds rooms and puzzles and items and mechanics and enemies and backstory, and yeah, it's just brilliant. But you know what else is brilliant?
Raid Shadow Legends.
The Outbreak games, which is next. I think the Outbreak games are awesome. They are awesome. I would say they are, in my opinion, a little bit... Actually, I don't know if they're better than Zero. I want to say that if Resident Evil Outbreak didn't come out on PS2 and they had waited to release it on like Xbox 360 and PS3 with online capabilities, I think this game would have been way more successful, way more loved, and may even still be alive today. But unfortunately, we didn't get that, and I don't really know if I can say Outbreak is better than Zero. It's hard to say that. But I'm gonna be nice, and I'm gonna put it ahead of Zero just because I think the potential of Outbreak is much greater than the potential of Zero. As I said, if Outbreak had came out a couple years later on the next generation of consoles, huge. It would have been massive. So, with that, I am going to put it ahead of Zero. It may seem like I'm kind of bullying Zero into a corner right now, but I'm not. I do still like Zero. I just think it's very flawed with its pacing and gameplay, that's all. Which kind of brings me to the next game, which I think is very good, but also overrated, is RE4. Do I think it's better than Code Veronica? Yes. I think Resident Evil 4 is only better than Code Veronica, because Code Veronica has less replayability, whereas RE4 is insane amounts of replayability. Insane amounts of replayability. But I don't think it's an S-tier game whatsoever. I think Resident Evil 4 is usually a bit overrated from the fan base at large. If I were to be putting it on S-tier, I feel like I would be glorifying it a bit much, but at the same time, I kind of feel like it deserves to be S-tier simply because of its influence on gaming. But it just doesn't feel right. It just doesn't feel right. I think A is very, very fair. It's in my opinion like it's the A+ Resident Evil game. It is the A+ Resident Evil game. I feel like if this was a tier list based on just how much fun do I have playing this game, it would be S tier. But RE4, everything about it is A tier, but the gameplay is S tier. And of course, the gameplay is one of the most important things that you can have in a game. So, I will say that. RE4 has S tier gameplay, but it's A tier in every other aspect. I think Umbrella Chronicles is a B tier game, and Darkside Chronicles. I think they're fucking cool. I think they're really cool, actually. After replaying them and seeing how much, like, effort was actually put into those games, They are really cool. They might just be rail shooters, and they might be really unfair at times because they're rail shooters, but they're very high quality production, and they're good retellings. They're simple and easy to get into. And like, man, if the Chronicles games actually had an arcade cabinet version, I mean, it'd be sick. It'd be so cool. But I played on the Wii with the Wiimote, and I still had a lot of fun. So those are super fun games. Worthy of B tier. Worthy of B tier, in my opinion. Chronicles games, super awesome. But 5 is the next game, and I think 5 is a solid B tier, probably the better B tier games. For the amount of fun that you can have playing co-op with your friends, I gotta say that RE5, especially being the ending of Wesker, the ending of Wesker, the follow-up to what he was doing in Resident Evil 4, the gameplay, the customization, like, it's just a really good action RE game. Like, it's better than a lot of people give it credit for. I would say I would play it more often than RE1. I really would. Just playing that with a good friend is just really rewarding. Now, the next game is frickin' Revelations 1 and 2. This one's really hard for me because I feel like a lot of people don't like Rev 1 that much. But honestly, I really liked Rev 1. I thought Rev 1 was super cool. Honestly, I don't know if I liked it as much as Outbreak, but I thought it was really good. Especially when you keep in mind it was made for the 3DS. It's a pretty cool game. It's a pretty cool game. But Rev 2's better. Rev 2's better. You know what? I honestly think I would put Rev 2 at the front of B tier. Rev 2 was really dope. Rev 2 was super dope. Fuck it. Honestly, I'd put it in fucking A tier. It's just Resident Evil fucking fan service that actually ties in to the story between 5 and 6. I think Rev 2 is awesome. But I also think that Resident Evil 6, which is the next game, is not as bad as people make it out to be. I don't think it's that bad. I think that with a good friend, you can have fun playing Resident Evil 6. But it is quite shallow. There's really not a whole lot to it. It completely overuses QTEs. And it's just so much bullshit, but it's a good action game, and it's fun to play. Again, it's really fun to play with a friend. So I'm actually going to put that at the bottom of B tier. Just for the sake of it being it's just fun to play with a friend. That's really all there is to it. Operation Raccoon City. I refuse to play this game. Its existence is literally just to fucking shoot stuff in the face. No, it's not F. Operation Raccoon City isn't a complete failure. It's not a complete failure. The complete failure is Umbrella Corps. This game is the epitome of Capcom just saying, hey you, yeah, you Joe Schmoes in the back. I know you've only been here for a weekend, but I need you to make a multiplayer game that's going to attract to esports normies. And then it got made, and then it's just fucking garbage. Just garbage. Nobody wants this. Nobody ever wanted this. But anyways, 3D Mercenaries. Honestly, I think I put 3D Mercenaries in the D tier last time. And that was really mean of me. Because this is like the best Mercenaries ever. And it's for the 3DS. Like, this game should have came out on console. This game should have had a console port. Like, it's actually kind of dope. It's kind of fucking dope. The 3D Mercenaries. It's really cool. Resident Evil 7, though. Resident Evil 7. The first half of the game is so fucking good, and then the second half of the game is just so eh. I will say this. I like it more. I like it more than Rev 2 and Resident Evil and all the others. Do I like it more than 5? No. I have way more fun playing 5 with a friend, but Resident Evil 7, I'm putting in the A tier because this game literally brought Resident Evil series from a screeching halt and just pedaled to the metal. It just put it right back into fucking action. Like, the reason why we still have really good Resident Evil content now is probably because Resident Evil 7 even exists. So you gotta put some respect on it. You gotta put some respect on it. But then, after Resident Evil 7 bringing the series kind of back to where it should be, RE2 Remake comes out. And this game is fucking insanely high quality. But in my last tier list, I put it in S rank. And after playing it a bunch, I no longer feel like it's an S rank game. I really don't. And the only reason why is because Resident Evil 2 Remake doesn't really have a B scenario. It's kind of upsetting to know that the B scenario, being such an important part of the original, was kind of an afterthought. But even so, I think Resident Evil 2 Remake is an extremely important release for the series. Just as important as RE4. But I do feel like even after all of these years of playing RE4, as much as I like RE2 Remake as a product and what it did for the series, I feel like these two games are equally as good. RE4 has insane replayability, and it's just iconic and legendary, whereas RE2 Remake is this insanely way better product with, you know, such high quality production and such creative use of the third person over the shoulder camera, which I think was done even better than RE4. It's hard to like say which one I like more, but I think I respect RE2 Remake a lot more. Or not a lot more, but a little bit more than RE4. For a game that came out in 2019, like, RE2 Remake it's pretty insane. It's pretty insane. We're lucky to even have that. You know what we're not as lucky to have? A very underwhelming remake of RE3. This game hurts to play. This game really hurts to play. I think it's a really fucking good game, but the amount of potential that was just thrown in the garbage and will never be recovered still hurts a lot. It hurts a lot. And to put it with these A rank games isn't even fair. I'm gonna put it just a little bit above Outbreak. It's a really good game, but oh my goodness, is it the worst remake. It's one of the worst remakes of any game ever. And the reason why it's so frustrating is because it's not even a bad game. It's just the worst remake ever, complete wasted potential, and we're never gonna get any of that back. Ever. It's gone. And It hurts. And you know what it came with? Fucking Resistance. Nobody fucking cares about Resistance. I'd rather play Gaiden and Denim again over booting up Resistance one more fucking time in my entire lifetime. Nobody wanted this. Nobody asked for Resistance. And the only reason why I'm putting it in C tier instead of D tier is because even though nobody fucking asked for it, it's not even a bad product. It has a decent idea. It has a decent idea, and it's not just copy-pasting the regular, asymmetrical, thank you. It's doing a formula of asymmetrical PvP that wasn't necessarily done just yet. It had some originality, but because it was still trying to be an asymmetrical horror game, there were so many fucking issues with it. It was imbalanced. There was no anti-cheat. The game was just laggy as fuck. Everybody was trying to connect to each other, and it was terrible. The servers were awful. All of the DLC was completely pointless, and they put more DLC love into Resistance than RE3 Remake, which makes no fucking sense because nobody fucking plays Resistance. It's crazy how much we just didn't need this. We just didn't. Resident Evil 8. Resident Evil Village. Fucking S. Fucking S tier. Absolutely S tier. I think that there are so many things that this game does that sometimes it feels like a bit of a weird mixture. But think about it like this. Village is taking everything from Resident Evil 7 and it's literally doing a Patrick Star. It's just moving it somewhere else. Okay? Just take Resident Evil 7 and just move it somewhere else, right? And then you take all of the gameplay from Resident Evil 4, all of the mechanics that everybody finds nostalgic about RE4, the briefcase, the buy and sell system, the treasures, all that stuff, and implement it into Resident Evil 7 moved somewhere else. Then take the amount of fan service that you get from Revelations 2, take the fan service from Rev 2 and just slap it on there as well. Then take the fucking the fucking intense action fight sequences that you had in like 5 and 6 and slap them into the Heisenberg fight. It's just a mixture of all these things. And then the Beneviento house is like this atmospheric call to like a completely different kind of horror. And they're not used to doing that type of horror. Yet they fucking pull it off perfectly. Like, the game has a little bit of everything for so many different people. It's got S-tier replayability, S-tier gameplay. Like, it's an amalgamation of so many things. And it's truly... it does it well. It's not like Resident Evil 6, where it's a jack of all trades, but it's not good at any of it. Resident Evil Village kind of feels like it's doing the same thing. It's a little bit of a jack of all trades, but it actually does those things well, and you actually like it. You know? So, I think Village is S tier. But I can't say I like it more than the OGs, or Resident Evil 1 Remake. The OGs are still very near and dear to my heart, and Resident Evil 1 Remake is my favorite RE game ever, and that probably won't change, but Village is up there with them. And with that, I think I will bump RE4 up to S tier. Because without Resident Evil 4, I don't think we would have had Village. So it only feels right. I think RE1 Remake and RE2 and RE3 Original, like, those are my top 3. And then Village and 4 hit my top 5. I think RE2 Remake is insanely good, but I don't think it's an S tier game for me anymore. There's just something about not having an actual B scenario that just bothers me. Code Veronica is always going to be a hit, in my opinion. 5 is so much fun to play with a friend. RE7 is the revitalization of the series. Rev 2 is fan service up the fucking wahoo, and it's super fun. The OG Resident Evil is undeniably the fucking... the reason why we even have this series. So we gotta respect it. Resident Evil 3 Remake is a great game, terrible remake. The Outbreak games could have been A tier if they came out on the Xbox 360 and PS3 instead of PS2. Revelations 1 for a 3DS game is fucking nuts. RE0, solid B tier. I'm sure people will be upset that I didn't put this game higher, but it's just how I feel about its flawed gameplay and system and pacing. Chronicles games, super fun, especially as a rail shooter. Resident Evil 6, it's like, it's the lowest B- you could possibly get. It's a terrible Resident Evil game, but it's fucking fun. It's fucking fun. Just play it with a friend, and you'll have fun. 3D Mercenaries, best Mercenaries game that we've ever gotten. Apart from 5, and it was for the 3DS. You gotta respect it. Dead Aim, is okay. Gaiden, Game Boy Color game. I would rather play these 3 games over fucking Resistance. Nobody asked for this. Stop making this stuff. Survivor, worse than I remembered, D tier. Survivor 2, can't see why it would be any better than Survivor 1. Operation Raccoon City, the existence of this game is stupid. Umbrella Corps, the existence of this game is stupider. There's no reason why these 2 things should even exist. But that is my tier list. I think this is the definitive tier list of how I feel now after playing all of these games in April and then having Village come out and playing that. I think this updated tier list better displays which games I like more now and which games I dislike more now. much happier with that list. YouTube comments, I don't know about that. I think there are gonna be some very upset people with me. I definitely stepped on some toes here. I stepped on some toes here. Hopefully the RE4 stands will have watched until the very end where I put RE4 in S tier, alright? But, yeah. That's it. And everybody in chat, smile for YouTube. Give him a nice smile.